Miners, geologists, archaeologists, builders, and other people who dig up the earth sometimes find objects that are in places where they simply should not be. Or these objects are made of such materials before the discovery of which, judging by the geological layer in which the finds were found, there were still hundreds or even thousands of years. Most of these mysteries remained unsolved to this day. Watch the video to the end to learn about the new finds that archaeologists have discovered recently. Hi friend, you're on the KirTop channel. Mayan altar 1500 years old. One of the most ancient and advanced civilization is the Mayan civilization. It developed quite quickly and disappeared just as quickly, leaving behind many questions and answers that scientists are trying to find to this day. In northern Guatemala, on the site of the ancient Mayan city of La Corona, archaeologists have discovered a stone altar dating from periods from 250 to 900 BC. Archaeologists said that the altar they discovered is currently the oldest object ever found on the territory of La Corona. A carving was made on the altar. After analyzing, scientists determined that the artifact belongs to a dynasty that dominated the Mayan lowlands for more than 200 years, the Shangri-La dynasty. During the study of the carving, scientists received information about the Mayan king Chactac-Echec, the existence of which scientists had not suspected until now. Scholars have that he may have been in league with Jibench and El Peru Vaca. The altar itself was made of a large limestone slab. On the altar, there was also an image of the king Chactac-Echec himself with two-headed snakes, and it was later found out not by chance the rulers of the Shangri-La dynasty considered and called themselves Lords of Snakes. The oldest wind instrument. Almost 80 years have passed since scientists found an 18,000-year-old shell in the Marcellus cave. Now analysis has shown that this shell is the most ancient wind instrument. It is not known for what purpose the inhabitants of the Pyrenean cave used this shell 18,000 years ago. However, this artifact definitely served to extract sounds. The musician was able to play 3 notes on it. The tip of the shell was broken off, leaving a hole 3.5 centimeters in diameter in the narrowest part of the shell. Since this is the hardest part of the shell, the researchers suggested that the tip was not accidentally broken off. At the opposite end of the shell opening, scratches from cutting objects are visible. The shell was decorated with a red pigment, hematite, characteristic of the Marcellus cave. This means that the artifact was not just a trinket, but was used for some important purpose. Waffle stone 300 million years old. The famous Waffle stone, quite an interesting find from the USA. Looking at it, one would like to say that it is insanely similar to the equally famous Viennese waffles, because it is from them that its name comes from. Many, from scientists to ordinary people, are wondering how miraculously this stone was created. Some say that this is the work of extraterrestrial civilizations. Others agree that Mother Nature made it. Maybe this is a message from the ancient Indians or a dinosaur paw print. One of the theories of origin says that the waffle stone was created as a result of natural phenomena. But doubts slowly creep into the head because its lines are so smooth, so even. How nature, without the influence of a man and maybe someone else, could create such an unusual pattern? Another theory says that parallel and intersecting lines are a way to convey information from the ancient Indians. But then the question arises, how did they create it? Because even in the modern world, there are no suitable technologies. No less fantastic opinion is put forward by ufologists. Allegedly, the imprint on the rock is a trace from the landing of a UFO and the radiation emitted from it. The first theory of natural education was put forward by Colonel Martin Walsh Jr. about 300 million years ago during the formation of the Appalachian Mountains, quartz mixed with sand and shells, resulting in a mass that was completely resistant to atmospheric influences. Over time, erosion occurred in the gaps of the rock, due to which the sand that was not fixed began to spill out, and in its place, there were depressions that now resemble a waffle pattern. Some scientists are of the opinion that the unusual pattern is based on the effects of a thunderstorm and a magnetic field. As you know, under the influence of an electromagnetic field, even parallel and intersecting lines can easily form, resembling triangles, squares, and even snowflakes. So maybe it's really that simple, and Waffle Rock is a joke of a lucky lightning strike. Millennium scales. In the center of Pskov, archaeologists studying ancient burials found a miniature scale in one of the graves. The find dates back to the 10th 11th centuries AD. The researchers note that the scales were stored in a wooden case with a leather lid. Wood remains in the ground worse than metal, so researchers are now thinking about how to save the case from destruction. The scales had a design common for the Middle Ages. 2 cups, goods were placed on one of them, and weights were placed on the other. Scientists noticed that the ancient masters decorated the edge of the cups and the yoke with a fine ornament. It should be noted that the tradition of leaving household items in the graves is typical for the pre-Christian period of Russia. Warriors were buried with weapons. Women were given equipment for spinning and cooking. If we follow this logic, then we can assume that the merchant was buried in the grave, which was discovered by Pskov archaeologists. Grabovetsky sword. Central Europe, Poland, place Grabovo, which is a few kilometers from the city of Kielce. Here, at the beginning of the 21st century, while mining limestone, workers discovered a mysterious metal object, a magnificent weapon, a rare find. When it was carefully cleared of the earth and examined, it turned out that it was a perfectly preserved iron sword. The find was handed over to the Archaeological Institute. Scientists conducted research and found that this weapon was made around 400 BC. The skill of the gunsmith who created this blade is admirable, but the special attention of archaeologists was attracted by the mysterious ornament on the handle of the sword. Some strange notches, lines, circles, ovals, very unusual inlay, and spectrographic analysis gave absolutely incredible results: 10% copper, 5% magnesium, and 85% aluminum. But is it possible? After all, it is generally accepted that aluminum in its pure form was first obtained only in 1825 by the Danish scientist Hans Ørsted. If the age of the sword is set correctly, a logical question arises: where did the ancient blacksmith get aluminum? Did people who lived more than 2,000 years ago know about the existence of this metal and even knew how to obtain it in some way unknown to us? If so, why was the technology forgotten by the next generations of craftsmen? Stone ram heads. Egyptian archaeologists are completing large-scale excavations on the Avenue of the Sphinxes, a 3,000-year-old road that connects the Karnak and Luxor temples. The 2,700-meter alley was built by Pharaoh Amenhotep III in the 12th century BC&S. Once it included more than 1,200 statues and was of great ritual significance. Over time, it was covered with sand and many of the statues were damaged. Excavations in the area of the Karnak temple have been going on since the 1940s with long breaks. In 2010, Egypt decided to tidy up the site and open it up to tourists. By 2020, the territory has been explored by 98%. By this time, many ancient artifacts were discovered here, including many of the lost ram-headed sphinxes. In ancient Egypt, the ram was a symbol of Amun-Ra, the patron saint of power, energy, and fertility. Installed next to the necropolises, the ram-headed sphinxes also acted as guards, silently calling for awe-inspiring silence. 3 more heads of rams were recently found. One of them is dedicated to King Amenhotep III. It has a horn, an eye, and a hole in which a cobra is placed. It is known that the crown of Amenhotep III had holes for a snake. The restorers will return the heads to their places, so that they again turn into mythological sphinxes located on both sides of the alley. Scientists call this ancient road an open-air museum, and now work on its restoration has entered the final stage. Soon, presumably in November, the opening ceremony of this monument will take place. Find in the secret room of the Temple of the Inscriptions. It is not known exactly who discovered the ancient settlement of Palenque. It is clear that this happened only in the 18th century, because the jungle reliably hid the city of the mysterious Maya. Palenque is at least 2,000 years old and has not been explored for a long time. Only in the middle of the last century, an expedition was sent to study this settlement. The attention of its members was immediately riveted by a huge pyramid, later called the Temple of the Inscriptions. A huge slab was found here, and according to the assumptions of the researchers, the Maya left their message on it. In total, about 620 characters were counted. Needless to say, it was not possible to decipher them. But this is not the most surprising thing either. scientists have noticed the floor of the pyramid. It was lined with stone slabs. One of them had many of the same round holes. The slab was raised and a passage was found under it, which led far down to the base of the ancient structure. The staircase was 16 meters long, and it took scientists 4 years to study it. Scientists faced many obstacles. These were both stone walls, tightly connected with lime and sand, and a slab 4 meters thick. When all the tests were passed, the scientists saw the entrance to the crypt. It was a small room. On its walls there are 9 images of people. In the center was a sarcophagus with a lid, lavishly decorated with symbols and drawings, the mass of which was 9 tons. Inside was the body of a man covered with precious stones. The find was sensational because it was the first Mayan tomb temple discovered. However, the enchanting discoveries did not end there. Among other slabs in the sarcophagus, one stood out, made in a slightly different technique. A reproduction of the image from the plate was made, which was further studied using a special computer program. The results stunned everyone. When the image became 3-dimensional, the scientists saw something like the cockpit of a spacecraft and the person controlling it. Of course, this puzzled everyone. It is still not clear what exactly scientists discovered: the Mayan ruler or a representative of another civilization, or it was all a clever fake. Traces of the magic country in Tibet. A group of researchers during a scientific expedition in Tibet found a wide range of fossils. Thanks to this find, scientists came to the conclusion that in the central part of Tibet there was a mysterious country, very similar to Shangri-La. Scientists from the Tropical Botanical Garden and the Institute of Paleontology took part in the expedition. Scientists climbed to an altitude of almost 5,000 meters above sea level to explore the plateau in central Tibet. As a result of the expedition, scientists found a whole collection of fossils from which they received a lot of valuable information. At that time, about 65 morphological types of fossil plants were extracted from the earth. This confirmed the hypothesis of scientists. Almost 50 years ago, there was a wet ecosystem in the area. Scientists came to the conclusion that the Shangri-La forest was located at an altitude of more than 1,500 meters above sea level. This forest had a monsoonal climate. Scholars have said that the first mention of the fictional magical country was in a novel by a writer that was published in 1933. This novel was called Lost Horizon. According to the plot of the novel, only people who crashed an airplane got into a mysterious country. In general, Shangri-La is described as a place with a good climate. All philosophers and people who are fond of mysticism have been looking for it for a long time, and they believe that they will soon be able to find it. The oldest brewery. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism said that archaeologists have unearthed a high-performance brewery over 5,000-year-old in Abydos North. 8 sections of 40 clay pots each were excavated. Scientists estimated this factory of the era of King Namur produced about 24,400 liters of beer at a time. Mustafa Vaziri, Secretary General of the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities, said it was the oldest high-performance brewery in the world. The malt was heated in vats, with each bowl held in place by clay levers shaped like rings. According to archaeologists, beer was probably used for ritual purposes in royal burial chambers. Baboon mummies. Based on the study of baboon mummies stored in museums, American scientists found that many of them were from the southern coast of the Red Sea. This data opens up new possibilities for discovering the ancient country of Punt, which was a supplier of baboons to Egypt, and reveals some of the features of how international trade was born. The world for the ancient Egyptians was not limited exclusively to the valley of the Nile River and the surrounding territories. They also traded with other countries, sending their caravans to them by land or water. One of such trade partners of ancient Egypt was Punt. The first known expedition there took place under Pharaoh Sahura, who reigned approximately 2487–2475 BC. Since then, the Egyptians traded regularly with Punt. This country was for them an important source of luxury goods such as incense, gold, leopard skins, and live baboons. However, the exact location of Punt is still unknown. Historians only know that it must be somewhere in the southern part of the Red Sea in Africa or in the Arabian Peninsula. The data obtained allowed scientists to conclude that the studied baboons were brought to Egypt from modern Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, Somalia, and Yemen. This contributes new data to the pond search. In addition, according to scientists, this confirms the amazing range of distances that the ancient Egyptian navigators traveled. The researchers also found that the level of strontium in some of the Ptolemaic baboons indicates that they were born and raised in Egypt. This may be evidence that the Egyptians not only exported but also bred animals themselves. So that you do not miss a new video, I recommend that you subscribe to our channel and click on the bell. Thanks for your views. Bye everyone!